Hello, everyone, and welcome to You've Retired, Now What? I'm here to help you navigate through these waters of deciding what's the rest of my life going to look like? What's my next phase going to look like? What have I not done that I wanted to do? I'm your host, Michael Kiffmeyer, and each week on this podcast, I give you tips and tricks, processes, and methodologies that can help you through your thought process. So we got a whole lot to talk about. Let's dive in. Today we're going to dive into your retirement dream. You know, you thought years about exactly what you're going to do when you're retired. How's that working for you? Are you doing exactly what you thought you would do, or has things kind of changed? You know, when you retire, in a word, it means that you're going to become a different person. And I know you find that hard to believe, but when you worked, you were structured, you knew what your identity was, who you are, where you needed to be, and what you needed to do. Now, many of you have been very fortunate and you've taken the initiative to do it on your own, to work out a schedule for yourself, but many have not. And then what happens is you wind up drifting from day to day, don't know what you're going to do that next day, and you find all of a sudden you're asking yourself, where'd the time go? I'll tell you where it went. You didn't have a plan on how to accomplish all these things that you wanted to do. You've had dreams in your life that you wanted to do to make you happy. Why not do them? You know, the happiest times in our lives, according to people that study older people, is that when we're young and when we get older. And when we get older, say past 65, 70, and beyond, we know that we don't have to answer to and have that many responsibilities except to ourselves and possibly our significant other and our families. Many people have started, second careers, but many people just enjoy being retired. I have a very good friend who's visited me this week. He was a corporate attorney. He retired at 58 years old. Why did he do that? Well, he used to always tell me, a lot of people like to work. I'm not one of them. He made great money, but he also, in anticipation of his retirement, he decided to become his own financial planner. And what's that done for him? Well, he and his wife travel the world whenever they want right now. They take at least 4 or 5 vacations a year, and they're living very, very good. So you need to define what your retirement dream is. You had a dream, you thought about this. So what was that dream? And why are you struggling now? You know, when we all worked, we didn't have time for dreams, possibly. I mean, we dreamt, but we couldn't act on them because we were doing something real silly like raising a family, paying our bills, and going to work day to day. And it didn't leave enough time for ourselves. Now you have enough time for yourself. You finally reached that stage that you want to, and you got to ask yourself on a continuous basis, what am I going to do with this? So one client that I talked to said she never really thought about how she was going to, what she was going to do when she retired. And that client happens to be my sister. She recently retired about a month ago, and she's got this idea she's just going to hang out. You know what? That's going to get boring real quick. You've heard me say before, doctors and social scientists have shown that people that retire at the age of 65 today usually live to another 25 to 30 years. What are you going to do with all that time? You're going to have to think about it. And I know you said, well, I worked my whole life. No doubt. But retirement has changed. Retirement has changed that we don't do what our parents and our grandparents did. Back in the day, I'd say after World War II, the Great Depression, people retired and that was it. But guess what? They didn't live that long. They were dying in their mid 60s, maybe early 70s. Now, if we have all this extra time, we live well. And we got a plan on what that's going to be all about. So I implore you to kind of take a relook at what your retirement dreams are. Think about your passions. What are you passionate about? We were at lunch yesterday with some friends, and we were talking about how what used to be important to us is no longer important, or it doesn't take on as much meaning. And I would say that perhaps that happens with you as well. If you put an old hobby away or something you like to do, ask yourself a question: why did you do that? One of the things that I used to do a lot, I used to snow ski. It's not got so much importance anymore to me. Did it for a long time, but I'm not saying I never do it, but it took less of a meaning and a must do for me. You need to consider your values. What matters to you most? Your family, your health? How about learning? How about just going on adventures? I would implore you to imagine your life day to day. Imagine what your perfect day in retirement would look like. Is it sitting on the porch drinking coffee? Is it hiking in the woods or spending more time with your grandchildren? You need to ask yourself these questions. And if you set a goal, you need to set a realistic goal. It's important to dream big, but also you need to be realistic. Don't say you're going to the moon or you're going to break Wall Street. That's probably not going to happen. So you need to focus on what's here and now and what you can do um, uh, in the near future. You need to take time to reflect on these points and they can help you in retirement and start giving you a pathway of your next steps, whatever those may be. So I'm going to share a couple stories of clients that I have. There was a lady by the name of uh, Muriel, and Muriel was a retired teacher, and she always liked to travel the world. But after retiring, she and her husband, they sold the house they were living in, got an RV, and now they're traveling the country. And this is what makes them happy. They told me in the past they wanted to see all the national parks and towns. They wanted to experience what life on the road was. Now, this might not be forever, but their story is a great reminder that it's never too late to chase your dreams. Whether it's traveling, a new hobby, going back to school, retirement, the way you want to, it can be a start of new beginnings. Another inspiring story that I came across was from a gentleman who retired from a corporate job and he became a full-time artist. That's a long way from what he was doing. Isn't that correct? Yes, it is. So this is what he told me. I always loved painting, but never had the time. Similar to what I said before, when we were working, we never had time to invest in our dreams. Now you have time and you have the freedom to just kind of unfold anything you believe that you might have an interest in and that it meets your values. If it doesn't meet your personal values, I want to share with you, you're not going to do it very long, and that's okay. It's okay if you start something, just say, you know what, this isn't for me. You start something new. And like I said earlier, the only person you have to humor or be responsible to is your significant other, maybe your family, but you can do what you want to do. It is your time to rediscover yourself. Find out and dig deep. And this is going to take some work. But wouldn't it be great to do this and get introspective? Tell yourself exactly what it is you feel you might want to do. Try it and see how it fits. And if you don't, it doesn't fit well, then let's try something different. Okay? You don't have to lock yourself into. You know what else you don't have to do? You don't have to live up to other people's expectations. This is your life. We got one life to live. And let's make the most of it instead of just withering away and say, well, I'm retired now. I can't, that's just how it is. That's not just how it is. You know, there's a term, my age group is the baby boomers. We're bionic boomers. We have had shoulders replaced, knees replaced, hips replaced, and we keep moving. Why can't you do the same? So let me share one other story with you. Um, of course, retirement isn't always a reality and it isn't always easy. You think it's an easy road, but there's challenges to overcome. You've lost your identity of who you were because you knew exactly who you were when you worked. Um, you lost friends. I know you think you're going to still see these friends, but let's face something. You saw them on a day-to-day basis and interacted, and it fulfilled your life. And you might still see these friends, but nowhere near like you used to. So one of the other challenges that you have is you need to start to work on your social network so that you can kind of fill that void. Otherwise, you're going to be asking that question, what now? What do I do now? You got to work at what you're going to do now. Usually when we talked about retirement, first thing financial planners want that you got to financially plan. Well, you can, okay, and you need to. And I don't want anyone listening to this podcast to think that, well, we just sit it and forget it. Really? So how do you account for when inflation hits an all-time high? How do you account for when the groceries are costing more, gas is costing more, everything is costing more? You got to plan for all this. And I'm sure when you did your financial plan with your financial planner, or if you just did it on your own, you didn't count, I will guarantee you, to live another 25 to 30 years. And you got to plan for that. We all say, well, we'll downsize when we retire. Yeah, okay. And I did that. I got a smaller house and downsized. I moved across the country to a place that makes me happy. But I'm going to share this with you. Once you start spending money on a regular basis, I don't care if you're working or not working, habits are hard to change. And you can't just go out if you're, especially if you're living on a fixed budget, you can't just go out and buy what you want unless you have a stockpile of cash um, hidden or kind of put away. If you start using credit cards to do it, then you're going to get into the a spiral of debt, and at an older age, that's pure hell. You want to do everything you can to be debt free, and so you can live within your means. You might consider, if you're bored, you might want to work part time. There's no shame in that. And maybe you don't want to work at all, but for those of you that need extra income, you can work part-time. What I'm doing right now and what I'm bringing across is the self-education industry inside of my podcast. The self-education industry is that there was a time when you had to go to a four-year college and that's how you got ahead. Not so much anymore. And if you do want to go to a four-year college now, you can do it from your laptop. You don't need to go to a building. Hello, everyone, and welcome to You've Retired, Now What? I'm here to help you navigate through these waters of deciding what's the rest of my life going to look like? What's my next phase going to look like? What have I not done that I wanted to do? I'm your host, Michael Kiffmeyer, and each week on this podcast, I give you tips and tricks, processes, and methodologies that can help you through your thought process. So we've got a whole lot to talk about. Let's dive in. And that brings us to another subject, especially if you're looking for ways to increase your income. Freelance work it is out there, and you could take your intellectual capital that you've developed over all these years and teach others, kind of like I'm teaching you off of this podcast. You also need, in the financial arena, you also need to still seek financial advice. You can't sit it and forget it. You're going to get yourself in trouble. Not intentionally, but it's just going to say, oh, you're going to look at your money go down and you're going to say, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? Don't panic, act. And these are some of the tips that I'm sharing with you that I see that you need to do. You need to stay active and healthy. If you get a sickness, that can harm you financially in a big way. You need to stay physically and mentally alive. You need to not just say, well, I've learned about everything I need to do. Nothing could be any further from the truth. I don't know about you, but I'm naturally inquisitive. I want to know when somebody tells me something, I always take it on face value and I say, okay. But our former president, Ronald Reagan, had a line that I love. He says, accept it, but verify it, and then verify it again. Uh, so you could do things like exercise regularly. You don't have to go to a gym, but you could walk, swim, do yoga, any activity you like. And as long as you keep the body moving, you need to eat healthy. Um, Gosh knows here in the United States, we've got more junk food that you can shake a stick at. And it's cost many their health later on in their life because they're not eating a balanced diet and they're eating foods that are not good for them. And you can change all that if you just get a regular routine. Probably the next year you need to take a look at, and I kind of mentioned it earlier. You're going to have a real emotional adjustment now in this retirement. We're talking today about your dream retirement and how you want it to look, and you got to take certain steps to assure that you can do each area, which will make you whole, which will make you happy. And just because you had goals when you work, now it's the time to set new goals. Okay, it gives you a sense of purpose. The Japanese call it ikigai, and it basically is the reason they get up out of bed every morning. Okay, and they've practiced this since they were young, and it's not a bad habit to take. You got to have a reason to pop up out of that bed every morning. Yes, you might not be able to do the same things you always did, but you can make new goals and maybe adjust things a little bit. How about volunteering? That'll help you stay engaged. It'll give you that sense of purpose we're talking about. You need to talk to your friends, your family, and your other colleagues that have retired and get their input, what they think. What do they feel that you're very good at that you could help others with or volunteer at different organizations? And finally, you might even want to get some expert advice. Okay, here's the most common advice that I give to my clients. The most important thing is to stay curious and open. You have two kinds of minds. You have an open mind and a closed mind. All of us have met all kinds of people that have closed mind thinking. I can't do that. I'm too old. I can't do this. I can't do that. You know what? I call bull on that. You can do anything you want to. Just the thing that usually stops you is that 8 inches between your ears when you're your own worst enemy. So it's okay to take your time to find out what you want to do. Start with small steps. I've always been a big proponent of creep, crawl, walk, run. For years, I helped major organizations, and I always told them, wherever your goal is, let's start small first, and then let's grow here, and then let's go where you think you want to be. It's basically you go in and you do an analysis on where they are, where do they think they want to be, and where are they going. So you do the same thing with yourself. So here's where I am now. Here's what I always wanted to do, and I've never done it. Why have I not done it? You haven't done it because you're thinking, you got procrastination, you got analysis by paralysis, and you talk yourself into your frame of mind. You are where you are right now at this stage of your life because that is your mindset. And mindsets can be changed. I'll guarantee you, it takes about 90 days on anything you want to do in your life to change your mind. So you're not going to get this answer in 2 weeks. I know it's we got to have everything right now in this society, but this is your life, okay? And do you want to leave a legacy? I do, but if you want to leave a legacy, regardless of what your past was, you can do it now. You know, Dr. Phil McGraw, that you all see on television, you probably heard him on podcasts. Somebody asked him once, what do you think about your past? He goes, you know, and he says, I'm like an airline pilot. I only see forward from the windshield. I don't look back. You can learn from lessons from your past, but they're not going to help you in the future. So you might ask questions like, how can I travel more in retirement without breaking the bank? So you can find lower prices and fewer crowds. Is one way you can do it. We all have travel rewards. You can use credit cards for everyday items and build up airline miles so you can travel. Why do I want to travel? Because sitting or long time stagnation leads to uh, get you closer to death. I've watched people in my family and outside of my family that have sat and they're bored to death. They are absolutely bored to death. They will tell you they're not, but you can kind of watch them, and you can see exactly what they're doing. So one question I get all the time is, I'm worried I'll be bored in retirement. Well, yeah, I just said that. You might be bored in retirement, but you could do a hobby, you could do painting, you could volunteer, lifelong learning, taking classes on subjects that might interest you. Well, we have a whole new technology out there right now called artificial intelligence. And for those of you that are afraid of it, don't be. I've used it several times. I use it pretty regularly in my coaching business. And it's a great time saver, and you'll be able to manage it. You'll be how simple it is. You don't have to be a programmer. You just got to know how to type what you want. Um, uh, the artificial intelligence do. Ever think of writing a book? This will cut your time down by 70%. You could write a book in an afternoon, and it would, you'd have it right there on your fingertips. So as we wrap up today's episode, remember this. The retirement dream is uniquely yours. What do you want it to look like? It's a time to reflect on what brings you joy and happiness and fulfillment. Whether it's traveling, starting a new hobby, or spending more time with friends and families. I want to thank you for today and listening at You're Retired, Now What? If you enjoyed today's episode, please pass it on to your friends, family, and colleagues. If you know retirement folks that are struggling, turn them on to this podcast, okay? One last thing I'll share with you. Here in early August, and I'll give you the times fairly quickly here, we're going to run a free challenge. It's a 5-day challenge. It'll be an hour each day. And the name of the challenge is called You're Retired, Now What? And in that challenge, what we're going to do is tools, processes, and methodologies that I have done in organizations, I can now use those to help individuals one-on-one. Nothing's harder to teach than change management. I have taught software, and I have taught processes. I've taught just about everything you can think of. But the change management, it's hard to do. But I'll tell you what, if you could change your life and things start to fall into place, ask yourself this question. If I don't do anything, where am I going to be next year? What's going to happen next year? But if you start to follow some of these free episodes that I'm going to present to you in this challenge, you're going to be amazed at where you are. You know what? is more important, and you're going to work hard to make yourself happy. One last time, I appreciate all of you. I thank you for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode. Keep up your enthusiasm, one foot in front of the other, and let's make this the best possible life that we can. Hey, before we conclude this episode, I'd like each and every one of you to know that your thoughts, your dreams, and what you would like to get out of this podcast is valuable to me. My whole goal and my mission is to serve you like I have served others. For years, I had taught major corporations how to use learning as a competitive advantage. I want to do the same for you. So please leave your notes or reach out to me, and I want to gear this podcast towards your wants and needs and help you as much as I can. Again, this is Michael Kiffmeyer, and you've listened to You've Retired, Now What? I want to thank each and every one of you for listening.